Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today being Wednesday, the 26th day of July, 2017. I trust that you had a peaceful, restful night here in the Cayman Islands or wherever you are. I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. Of course, you know For the Record is a show produced by the staff and the management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orit Connor. My two co-hosts are in the studio with me as well, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Dr. Steve McFeel. You can join us in the conversation by calling us on our toll-free number, courtesy of Flow, that toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Of course, if you don't like to talk on the telephone, you can email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. If you call in on the telephone, you will be greeted by that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson as well. So we encourage you to call in with your views, any concerns that you may wish to express. Feel free to do so. We're going to continue our discussion this morning on the Commonwealth Parliamentary Observer Mission to the Cayman Islands for the 2017 general election, and we will be covering the last three recommendations, or the last two or three recommendations that they made as well. So before we get to that, I want to say good morning to my two co-hosts and give them an opportunity for some remarks as well. Let's start with you, Dr. Steve. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning
to For the
you.
Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. For the Record, and good morning to our co-host, Teresa Pitcairn, and good morning to all your local listeners and those that are listening to you abroad. I know that you have a lot of following abroad, so we want to say good morning to those people also. Yeah, there are a lot of things happening. As I was coming down this morning, I was listening to another radio station, and one of the hosts on that radio station was talking about the lawlessness that is pervading our country now. Everything seems to be, Cayman seems to be in a lawless state, about all of the crimes and the break-ins and the burglaries and everything seems to be going wrong. And at one time, when the only disaster that we had that we could say was a national disaster was the hurricane. That's what they were saying. And that bothers me a bit, because I have been thinking about the same thing too. When I go to a country, the first thing I do is I pick up the newspapers to see how the newspaper report the news, because it can tell me a lot about the people there. And then I look and see how the people drive, their driving habits. And I notice here there's a lot of lawlessness on the road in the morning. People are coming faster. It's supposed to be 40 miles an hour. They're making 60 and 70 and 80 miles past you. And people like they're in a hurry. It's like a viciousness among the population, and perhaps sometime we can discuss what's the reason for this drastic change in our whole attitude one against the other.
Okay, morning, Mr. Teresa. Sorry.
Yeah, good morning to you, to Steve, to our audience. And again, as I listen to Steve, I'm thinking about the synergy and the way we connect, because again, we don't discuss what we're going to talk about necessarily. but we discuss the issues that will arise. But here are some of my thoughts, which I think closely align to what Steve was saying. The recent commentary in the media the other day regarding how Cayman will benefit from recent experiences failed to recognize that measuring the success of a society on its ostensible economic performance alone is fallacious and misleading. History has shown us that ultimately it is the people that call the shots. Look at who elected Trump. Those left behind or the disenfranchised ultimately get enough and will, as we used to say, mash up the place. If poverty is shared, it may well be endured. But when it is mocked by extravagance and political amnesia or willful blindness, resentment smolders, sowing seeds of social warfare. Our politicians promise the voters relief from forfeitures, discrimination in the workplace, to put Caymanians first when it comes to employment, proper attention to crime, and giving small businesses the opportunity to succeed. These were just some of the promises. This administration's rule is still young, so the jury is still out on them. But the fact is, we expect our politicians to lie, and few of us are particularly surprised when the lies are exposed. So my worry, not unlike what Steve just raised, is if we don't demand honesty and accountability from our leaders, we'll become resigned to their manipulation. And what are the ramifications for our community?
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Before you go on there, Ori, there's another thing that I saw in the paper this morning, last night. The Friends of Cayman, and the members of Parliament in UK, they call them the Friends of Cayman. Well, I don't know how friendly they are to Cayman, but I understand. I see that. But I see that they are now advocating that Cayman has a seat in Parliament.
Yeah, and several occasions they've said that before. Yeah.
Well, what's the repercussions of that? We sit in their Parliament in United Kingdom, and then they will have the right to sit in our Parliament here, and their people will
reciprocal, yes.
And their people will have the right to vote in our legislature here too. So
and we may have to pay taxes.
We may have to pay taxes. Where they say where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah. We have one caller, so let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Connor. How are you today?
Morning, I'm fine, sir.
I can't speak, and I want to get on air, but I just called and told Miss Susan about the sound. It's a bad roaring. We can hardly hear you guys speaking. So once you get it clear up, I'll call back. But it's a terrible roaring.
Excellent. Okay. We'll have that cleared up for you. I'm sure. Let us know whether or not it continues. Ms. Teresa, talking about society and how we are judged. I see here in the Bermudan newspaper, the Royal Gazette, where the former Premier Michael Dunkley, who immediately resigned after the loss, despite the fact that he kept his seat. He resigned as the leader of the One Bermuda Alliance, and he has now commented in terms of how black Bermudans were treated during his tenure as premier and during his party's reign, and he laments the fact that they could not do more to support black Bermudians because he says that they were limited by economic constraints, and asked about criticism that the One Bermuda Alliance did not do enough to help black Bermudians. He said it was a fair assessment, adding that he would have liked to have done more. And he's quoted as saying the challenges is that we were in a very difficult position. He said, pretty easily we could have made decisions to try to do some things to help people in certain areas. But against the backdrop of our hands were tied with budget constraints, with the debt that we had, we didn't want to encumber ourselves any more. Now, when we look at the Bermuda situation and we look at the Cayman situation, our financial position was much better, even though we were coming back from financial challenges that we had also. Our financial situation was much better. But the poorer people in Cayman, those who were struggling, those who didn't have jobs, were practically in the same situation as were the Black Bermudans, where they didn't get the assistance from the government that they needed. But in Bermuda's case, they were struggling with debt and everything else and had to make hard choices. In our case, we were drowning in surplus. Mm-hmm. And we were drowning in a surplus, and people were still complaining, no jobs, difficulties paying their bills, light bill, water bill, loss of homes because of foreclosures, defaulting on their loans and everything else. Two completely different situations, one with money, one without, but yet in both situations, the poor people were suffering. Let's go back to our caller. He has rejoined us. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, your panel there, Ms. Teresa. How are you?
Hi, morning.
I have a question, Mr. Connor, and I will just say what it is, and then I'll hang up and hear you and Mr. Markfield and Ms. Teresa's reply.
Sure.
It is there is a job application published through the NWDA website. And I mean, it's nothing to hide. It's there for everybody to see once you go on the website. It says requirements for a clerk must be trustworthy, no criminal record, must be available 24 hours, must clean house and bath rooms with apostrophe S, must have 4 to 10 years working experience, must have accounting knowledge, must know QuickBook, salary minimum $650, salary maximum $750. Requirements: education is an associate degree. How many jobs is required there? I don't think that the NWDA monitors this, because this is more than one job. And I would like to hear your comments on it with the qualifications for a clerk.
Okay, caller, thank you very much for that. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we return, we will have our hosts and co-hosts comment on that. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, my two co-hosts, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn and Dr. Steve Macfield. Let's go to the callers' comments in relation to the ad that was on the National Workforce Development website. First of all, my understanding is, which has been explained to me during the break, that the NWDA does not actually post these adverts for jobs themselves, but there is a portal that allows their clients, the companies who are seeking workers, to post these ads on there. So let's not, first of all, directly attribute that to NWDA. Secondly, we don't know whether or not it is an ad that has connections with an application for the grant of a work permit or the renewal of a work permit. If it's the renewal of a work permit, then someone may ask questions in relation to, were these responsibilities, the way that this ad has been placed, was the work permit approved on that basis? If it is the grant of a work permit, then it would appear to me that maybe someone within the NWDA should be looking at these ads that are placed on their portal, scrutinizing them, and to see whether or not they meet the smell test.
Yeah, well, Orit, it reminds me, it seems to me that there are 2 or 3 different jobs there: janitor, clerk, and whatever. And it seems to me that maybe clerk is now the what you call it, synonym for janitor, because I remember when I was in New York City, I going to school and I had this. I was living with this family, and this gentleman. I asked this gentleman. He went out every night and came back in the morning, and I asked him, like, what do you do? What are you doing at work? He said he was a sanitary engineer. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, geez, this guy has a big job. He's an engineer. And then when I heard, and then his wife said, he's not a sanitary engineer. He works in a sewer. Well, maybe this is the same thing. Clark now is the name for a janitor to clean the toilets and to clean the bathrooms. That's what they want. Mm-hmm. And you have to have 10 years experience and a degree, and they're paying $600. It's a fraud, and we should be eliminating these frauds from our systems, and we should be, it's almost like we should prosecute people for this perpetuating these fraudulent views on our society and these things that they're trying to do to us. It seemed to me that everybody's become unruly now in Cayman Islands and can get away with anything.
Ms. T?
But as I think I've said here quite a few times, that we give them permission to do that by our silence. Mm-hmm, I mean, folks know that Caymanians are not willing to be, one, courageous, two, to actually do something, get up and do something about it, or at least that appears to be the case. So people that come here capitalize on this. They know that Caymanians are not necessarily going to get up and stand up like the Bermudians and go out there and ensure that their rights are respected. The other thing is, our politicians too, we've come to accept the lies and we've become numb to the lies. We've just had an election. We saw how the government was configured, and you just wonder about certain things. I've said to friends who question this that this particular government, the jury is still out on it. They're young, but we need to hold our politicians to a higher standard. And what they tend to do is that they're willing to be deceitful and unwilling to tell the public something that's going to hurt their political career. So it's not about us, going to vote for people that's going to take care of our best interests. We've seen it over and over and over and over. Caymanians sit down quiet like sheep and do nothing but expect miracles. To be honest, Steve, I don't understand that at all. I don't. History suggests that this will change because we see who voted for Donald Trump. When folks get enough, they get up and they do something about it and they mash things up. But do we want to wait until we get to that extreme? I mean, what we've built here is something pretty special. Are we going to allow a few elite folks and politicians who simply don't keep their word to mash things up? Yeah. I don't know.
I was reading the cartoon in one of our local publications this morning, and the cartoon referred, there's a gentleman and his wife, and discussing the fact that he has gotten a new job with the immigration department, looking at the permanent residency applications. And she said, well, how come is it that you're still home today, sitting down, drinking beer and watching television? And he said, I'm waiting for my work permit to be processed so that I can go and work for the immigration department to process these applications. Meant to be funny, but it may not be far-fetched. It may not be far-fetched that we will find, some of our government. Well, I mean, it happens now in a different form. We still have a lot of positions within government that should be filled and could be filled by Caymanians, and they're not being filled by Caymanians. I recall when they were talking about cutting the civil service, and I made remarks in a meeting with a particular governor to say, well, yeah, fine. If you start to cut the civil service, the first place you start with the non-Caymanians. You start with the non-Caymanians in the civil service if you're going to reduce the size of the civil service. Everybody went quiet. They didn't want it. They didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And when you put that on the table for them, then it's a completely different story and a different reaction altogether if you're going to cut there. Not far-fetched, though, that you will, I'm sure that those companies that are doing the review or the company that will be doing the review and the assessment of the immigration department.
Wasting our money.
That their staff, how many of them are going to be Caymanians? How many Caymanian faces you're going to see in there participating in that?
Yeah, and I was speaking to one of the prominent Caymanian contractors in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s here. He's retired now. And we were talking on the phone on Sunday, and he was saying to me, see, I just can understand how it is. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I was paying men $15, $18, $20 an hour to work in construction. And today, 2017, people are getting $6.50 an hour for minimum wage. How did we ever get to that point where now 20 years later, 30 years later, we're making 1/3 less than we did 20 years ago when we didn't have such an expense to live in the country, and when we in those days when we owned our own homes and we could and it wasn't so competitive. The whole thing is about lack of planning and greed, because how can you pay a man $600 a month to be a janitor, and then ask him to have 10 years of experience, and then ask him to have also a degree? The whole thing is absurd, and I think they stop whipping people now. But they should bring back whipping people for doing that sort of stuff to Caymanians. That's what they should be doing.
Okay, we're going to go back to the control room now for the 8 o'clock news. Please stay tuned. When we return, the discussion will continue on For the Record. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, my two co-hosts, Dr. Steve Macfield, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn. During the news break, I took the opportunity to scour through some of our local publications in the classified section, and I'm going to read an ad to you, quite similar to the one that was described by the caller, and this one is in one of the newspapers, and it is for a full-time bar back. It says full-time position, working a combination of day and night shifts, must be able to work until closing, which is sometimes 2 a.m. You would be assisting bartenders in setting up the bar, keeping it stocked throughout your shift. There will be cleaning duties, waste can removal, sweeping and mopping, as well as other duties to help the bar run smoothly. 1 to 2 years experience in a busy bar situation is necessary. You must be willing to work outside all shifts and able to work in a multicultural workplace. Pay is $6 per hour plus half health and half pension, 40 to 45 hours per week. And it refers you to go to a website, the company's website. Very similar to what the caller described. Not sure if it is the same one that the caller is talking about. If not, then let us know. Now, we're going to go back to discuss our recommendations. And I realize that there are some persons who comprise our listening and viewing audience who may not necessarily have an interest in what we are talking about in terms of the observer missions recommendations. Unfortunately, we cannot cater to the whims and fancies of all or each of our listening and viewing audience. So we try to cover things. But we trust and we hope that those same persons who are saying, oh, we want to hear something else, we don't want to hear about this, they will be the same ones later on when there are changes made to the elections law. Then you'll hear, oh, we didn't know anything about this, we didn't hear anything about this, where did this come out from, as well. Like I said, we recognize that you all have different interests in terms of the topics that we discuss, but there are many persons who have an interest in this particular topic, and we're going to cover it and we're going to conclude it despite what some of you may think in terms of the topic that we're discussing this morning. I'm told we have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines first before we go to the two callers. Let's go to the phone lines first. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, and I hope that I'm not interrupting the flow of thoughts by calling and wanting to maybe talk about something different than the recommendation.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I actually was stimulated by a few comments that were made earlier, in particular by Ms. Teresa. With regards to the government keeping perhaps a low profile at the moment. But I just want to say that if it was so urgent, the challenges in this country, that everybody were active during the election. Everybody felt that we had real pressing social ills, and that should be the main concentration in terms of how to solve these social challenges that we have in the country. I feel that if those challenges were so important that nobody could remain silent for so long, there would have to be some kind of activity. There would have to be some kind of encouragement. There would have to be some kind of carrot put in front of people. But the fact that the government could consider itself a government of national unity, and what are they unifying on? What are the principles? If I think that it has to do with their unifying in terms of trying to see the issues in the country as having to being related to social challenges as well as economic challenges. So many of the social problems, or all of the social problems, just about, are not going to be solved without somehow dealing with the economic challenges that we have in terms of integrating Caymanians into the workforce, into the work environment. So if you're discussing, for instance, with regards to how these job applications are now being written, or job adverts are now being written, it's all a situation where people are just finding ways to bypass the people that we need to integrate into the economic system. Otherwise, we will have perpetual social problems. I mean, it is not like it's so difficult to understand that many of us, including myself, is really frustrated because I have no place in this society. We hear people talking about my play going to Carafesta. And my first play went to Carafesta in 1981, a long time ago. It was called Time Along in a Row. Yeah. I have been talking about the disruption of the Caymanian society and the Caymanian psyche and the type of psychological and sociological consequences, yet none of my material is being used in school. So it has no value. I cannot collect commercially for what I produce. So it's almost like if we Caymanians produce something or make something, it has no economic value. Somebody comes here and they do something, and it's currently economic value. So it's this kind of disproportional way in which we treat and reward ourselves. And
we're losing your communications. The tone is going up and down. Not sure what it is, Doc.
And then overcompensate other people. That is partly what makes people very frustrated and very angry. So I didn't want to really take you off of that, but I just wanted to put that in there because today I feel very, very, very frustrated because every time I hear about the fact of Carafest, every time I hear about somebody giving me a compliment for what I've done in this society, I wonder whether or not that is just because it comes around again to the season when something that I've done has to be used, and therefore people have to recognize it, but they feel they can recognize it without rewarding it. And that's sometimes very, very frustrating, and sometimes it makes me feel very sad. So I feel what a lot of other Caymanians feel out there, that feel that they have something that is being taken from them, but they are not being rewarded. Their friendliness that they had originally that caused people to come here, their hospitality that could be working in the tourist industry, all of that has been collected and is being resold without them, and that hurts. I'm not going to say any more. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Very good point there. One more caller. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Risa. And
Morning,
good
Miss Georgia.
morning to Dr. Steve.
Good morning, ma'am.
This is Georgia Bank. I just have one question, and then I'll make a comment and hang up and wait for your answers. And I'll also say I hope that all three of you and all your family members are well. You know in Cayman that's the way we always
That is our culture. Yeah, that's what Frank spoke to.
I'm going to ask the question and then make the comment, and I'll hang up and wait for whichever one the three of you or all three of you want to answer. That's up to you. When will the House convene again?
We don't know.
Well, that's answered very quickly. Now I'm going to make my comment, and when I make my comment, I'll hang up to wait and hear the comment from the three of you. Over the years, I tried very hard not to listen to the members of the LA at, the reruns at night. And I hope Ms. Teresa, Dr. Steve, and Mr. O.C., that when the House convenes again, that some of the terrible behavior that had gone on previously, and this is not being said to offend anybody. This is being said, hopefully, that it will not happen when the House convenes. That when one member of the LA will be speaking, some will be on their phones, some will be reading newspapers, some will be 2-3 people chatting together. I mean, when it convenes, I hope that all the men and women in there, I mean men, not just males, men and women in the House will act in a mature, intelligent, sensible way, and remember so many people, not just in Cayman, but all over the world, are hearing what they are saying, and what an example it will set for our young men and women when they hear them behave in a mature and intelligent and proper way. So may God bless them, and not only our LAs, but all the people in authority, from our governor right down. And also, my song, Mr. O.C., all the people on our three islands.
Yes, ma'am.
And I mean that from my heart. Thank you for giving me all this time to run up my mouth. And God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Georgette. We're going to take a break now. When we return, we will have some comments on both the callers' points that they raised. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. My co-host in the studio with me this morning, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Dr. Steve MacPhail. In relation to Ms. Georgette's comments, first, the new Speaker of our Legislative Assembly has made it quite clear that he is going to require certain decorum within the Legislative Assembly. He's going to basically strictly apply the rules of the Legislative Assembly and everything else. So maybe we will see some changes there. In relation to her question about when will they meet in the Legislative Assembly, in some of my correspondence with people in the know, it appears as if the strategic policy statement has to be delivered by the 23rd of August in our Legislative Assembly. So we should see the Legislative Assembly meeting on or before the 23rd of August of this year. So hopefully that helps some. But yes, definitely, if they want people to be interested in listening, then they certainly have to step up the quality of the debate in the Legislative Assembly, not necessarily the quantity, because we find a lot of them just get up there and talk for the 2 hours or whatever it is that they're allowed to talk. They simply talk because of that. There are others who don't waste a whole lot of time and just simply say what they have to say in as briefly as possible, and then move on. But if you want the public to be interested, then you have to have something interesting to say to them. Doc.
Yeah, debate is not a breakdown, drag out verbal fight in the assembly where you attacking other people for the personalities and even people outside of the legislative assembly. I mean, it was. For me, it was a pleasure when I was much younger to go down to the Legislative Assembly and hear people like Clifton Hunter, which I considered to be the one of the best debaters, one of the best speakers in Cayman Islands at the time, and people like Haig Borden and people like Benson, and even True to debating the subjects and debating the issues in the House, and Captain Reed and all those people. And now it's like a free for all. It's like everybody's waiting out the next person to see what the next person is going to say, so they can attack what that person is saying. That's not debate. Debate is when you speak eloquently about the subject in which is before on the order paper, and you defending the reason why you support it or don't support it.
And you do some research.
And
counter
the arguments.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Dr. Frank McPhail, on another radio station a couple of days ago, I heard all these accolades about how brilliant he was and how brilliant his plays were and how brilliant the writing is for the play and things like that. And I was wondering, well, if he's so brilliant and the plays are so brilliant and you think about that, why is he not working? Why is he not working in the cultural arena in Cayman Islands? If you have a brilliant playwright and a brilliant writer, you should be utilizing him. And then I spoke to him several days ago, and he told me about the fact that about Carifta. Well, they say you could come, Carifesta. You can come, but we will just give you a ticket. You'll have to find your own way. Well, it's his play. You would think that if he's a brilliant author, that he would be the person that you'd want to introduce to the audience after the play has been done well. And you should be paying him and facilitating to go to Carifesta.
Give him a per diem as well.
Give him a per diem as well. Yeah. And this is what's happened to us. Everybody come in and they able to get in, and then as soon as they get in, they dislodge the people that matters in the country. And I asked him, would he go? He says, no, I'm not going to go under those circumstances. I mean, that is so disheartening, and it makes a mockery of your work that you do, and I would suggest that the man, if he's brilliant and he has some worth and he has some life left in him. I think he's not even 70 yet. Find something for him to do that can benefit our society, instead of have him walking around and not doing anything. In other countries, that they would be a place for him in the system, and it goes to show it goes to show that we really don't like each other. As one politician, as one commissioner said, one governor said, we are the worst. How did he put it? We are the worst people to each other. We hate each other. I think it was Long. Mr. Long said that to a friend of mine. He says, we are the worst people to each other. We hate each other, and we will not uplift each other, and we will find everything to put each other down.
Steve?
Yeah, I was just, I was one of the first youngsters. I was 18 when I went to Barbados for Carifesta, and that was one of my first introduction and experience to the arts within the Caribbean in that sense. In my viewpoint, this silence that we have on this issue is a reflective, again, Steve, of who we are. And it's truly and really, and it's really, really unfortunate. We have masterful politicians and communicators generally, and they don't need, what they say don't need to be true. It just needs to be persuasive, and it is persuasive. And this highlights the dangers of the dishonesty and the bigotry and the many untruths that are so resonant in this community that we swallow, accept, and I don't know how we value ourselves, because if we had that much more value, we would never tolerate that kind of nonsense in such a small community such as ours. Our politicians can't say that they don't know about the unemployment and the fact that we don't even have unemployment insurance to cushion some of the blows that many people feel. Speaking of Dr. Frank as well, what about his intellectual property rights for the play that he's written?
Exactly.
Mr. Doctor, have you charged those folks who are using your material? We really gotta, come on, we really gotta fly right.
Okay, I think we have two callers. Let's see if we can take one call before we go to our commercial break. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC, Dr. Steve, and Teresa. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
How are you guys?
We're good.
We're good. This morning, good.
Well, between you, Dr. Steve, and your comment just a minute, Teresa, you haven't left me with very much to say of what I had planned to say, but I'll append to it and say this. Look at your comment just now about how unutilized Dr. McFeel is, right? And how he is not getting the opportunity to get ahead in his own country, how he's not being utilized. Then look at the young Caymanian man who doesn't have what Dr. McFeel has. Yeah. But what he has is a beautiful smile and a beautiful personality. But yet not even he is being utilized in our tourism industry. He can't get a job because he smoked marijuana at one point in his life. Yeah. That he who's it out since cast the first stone, though. Yeah?
Yes.
Now, he can't get a job as a common laborer because he has a police record. There's no offerings to him at all. Teresa, you just spoke about unemployment insurance for people who become unemployed. Yeah. What about the one who is unemployable because the society has deemed them to be unemployable? Yeah. Yeah. We have discarded all of their innate skills because they didn't graduate from high school. Come on, I can't get to work if the mechanic don't come fix my car, right? But because you didn't graduate from high school, they're thrown to the side and called worthless and no good. Watch them bunch of worthless, no good punks, right? But we need to consider not only for the levels of people such as Dr. McFeel, but all of them, all of us in this country who are not being given fair, ample opportunity to be a part of our society. And to think that the discussion that Dr. McFeel will be having this morning is that he was offered a ticket to the play, for the play that has put us in the world's view. And he's not going because he wasn't being put up because we didn't see the value of having him who wrote the play. That is...
But
honestly, that makes me... That hurts my feelings so bad. And if he has no value... How much value does the young men that they're trying to help redeem have?
Good. Caller, it's not we that is enforcing this thing on Dr. Frank McField. It's our leaders, and the only value we have is the vote, and we put that X there for those folks that are there and give them permission to behave this way. That's really what offends me.
Yes, and I totally agree with you. And when I say we, I said we collectively, because I always say we the people, we own the country, we Caymanians, we the government, all right? But truthfully, yes, let's put credit where credit is due and blame where it deserves, right? That the government saw no value in sending Dr. Maxfield off to Carafesta.
Carafesta,
sorry. Now, I think we have three very strong advocates on there, and I was so glad to hear you guys approach it just now. I think we should take this a step further, and we should call for them to support him in all manners for him to go and see his play represented overseas.
Thank you very much, caller, for that.
Thank
You for that. We're going to a commercial break now. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to For the Record. One caller going straight to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. No caller at this point in time. Okay. I'm going to read something that was just received, and it is in relation to the story that an influential Tory MP has said that increased devolution powers to the home countries has made the lack of Westminster representation for the Crown dependencies and the British Overseas Territories a great unfairness. It was time, he said, to end the outdated system of treating them like colonies. That would be Mr. Andrew Rosendale, who's a Conservative member of the UK Parliament. This person's response says, further to the report on this in various British Overseas Territory media, including Caribbean News Now and Cayman Islands News, this is an update. If the British Overseas Territories and the Crown dependencies had UK parliamentary representation, the Cayman Islands, with a population of approximately 61,000, would be likely to qualify for an MP in its own right, as this is in line with the average constituency size in the UK. Based on population size, with some flexibility allowed, and with a total of approximately 250,000 for the total of the British Overseas Territories, the number of British Overseas Territory MPs would be about 5, with a further 3 to 5 for the Crown dependencies, which has a population of 250,000. Says the total number of UK MPs is currently 650, but made up of 533 English, 59 Scottish, 40 Welsh, and 18 Northern Ireland MPs. There would be a further 8 to 10 British Overseas Territory and Crown Dependency MPs with this proposal. The average constituency size in England is 72,400. For Scotland, it is 69,000. For Northern Ireland, 66,800. And for Wales, 56,800. Gibraltar has a member of the European Parliament. Why not an MP? Now Brexit is proceeding, and why not for all British territories? The idea has been taken forward by a prominent UK MP. Then they go on to say the Falklands would probably have to share an MP with some other territories, but a logical constituency could be the Falklands, South Georgia, South Sandwich Islands, British Antarctic Territories, and the St. Helena Islands as a group. So that is the person's suggestion in relation to that. That speaks to the numbers. What it doesn't speak to is all of the unforeseen circumstances that may arise
reciprocal
from us,
ones.
Yeah, being part of the UK Parliament. What else would it entail?
I see
Unless
this.
they're carve-outs.
Yes.
I see this as part of the whole idea of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association report, where they're talking about giving the vote to people who are residents here, who are not Caymanians. I think this is a part of an extension of that. Who wants to be? What Caymanians want to be in the MP in the British Parliament? What is that going to do? So we become MPs in England, and the English people say, well, you have an MP now in Cayman. We want to be an MP in your Parliament, or we want the residents from our country to vote in your legislature. It's a very dangerous road that would be a very dangerous road for us to go down. And before we even think about it, debating it further in the public to get some crazy politician to be running with that now, so that they can be the first person to say, I was elected to the parliament in the UK. We need to really suss that out to see what is behind the door. What is behind the door? What is the trap behind the door? Because it seems to me to be a really, really big constitutional and national trap.
Yeah, and the other question would be, what are the benefits to be derived from that? Ms. T,
yeah. But this has been something, though, that has been discussed from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
we must point out, too, that Andrew Rosendale has always been a strong proponent for the overseas territories. What I would like to see him talk more about, though, is the UK's responsibility for preparing us to take control of our own destiny.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. T. Sorry, I interrupted.
No. You and Dr. Steve. You're
talking about that. You leave that to us, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go now to the report. We have to finish this report. It is extremely important for us. The last three recommendations that we're going to discuss. The one, funding of political parties, and it says that recommendation number 18, political party funding could be introduced to strengthen the political party system, including incentives for nominating female candidates and for making candidates less dependent on private donations. So they're talking more about public funding.
Yeah, we've agreed to have our proper monitoring. And I think when we spoke about it the last time, it wasn't clear to me what kind of incentives they were going to have to introduce to encourage women to run for office. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something that one would have to consider.
Okay. I'm told we have two callers, so we're gonna again disrupt this and go to the callers. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
OC, it seems like your support for the election observers has been quite enlightening, and we're learning a little bit more about what the real plan is for us. The UK has been arguing since about 1986 at the UN Decolonization Committee, or the Fourth Committee, that we should not the Cayman Islands should not remain on the list of non-self-governing territories. And if that's the case, in what way are they proposing to change our political status? Right? Because Article 73 of the UN Charter gives a couple of options. The one that they no longer, they claim they've made a unilateral decision that they no longer recognize, which is free association. But they've said that we could have independence, we could remain the same, or we could have integration. And what I'm hearing you all talking about on the radio today regarding a possible seat in the UK Parliament sounds like integration to me, because that's the direction it's going to take.
That would be a step towards it, yeah.
That's right. And I wonder if people really understand the consequences of what's being said, because this is something that I dislike very much. I don't like the idea of having a seat in Parliament. I don't like the reciprocity that might be associated with that, and what that will mean about how we will become a minority voice in what our legislation will actually be. And I think this is an important subject. I appreciate that you guys are discussing it, and I hope that we can continue to find out more about the truth of what's actually being said behind closed doors about us, in particular in relation to this Brexit thing. We need the government to be open with the public about what they're discussing with the UK in relation to that, so that we can properly understand what decisions are being made, because we have a right to make a decision about what we want to do, not a right to simply accept what decision has been made for us in darkness.
Yeah, it should be an informed decision when we make it.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Let's go to the next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, it's Johan. Good morning to my three favorite talk show
Good morning, Johan.
hosts. Jumping straight into it, Mr. OC, you've been at the highest offices or levels of government. You're fully equipped on briefing us as to how the game gets really played. Perhaps you could encourage, or perhaps you would lead the charge and encourage the leadership of this country, the elected leadership of this country, to educate the people and shed light on what is nothing more than a Trojan horse. Whenever you have any representative from the UK offering you something as magical as a seat in Parliament, that comes with a heavy price, because there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Yes.
I would hope that all of the friends of Cayman and the people that we go up to meet annually would show how committed they are to positive relationships with the Cayman Islands by fighting with us and representing our views whenever we go out there and we face the over-regulation and are forced to be the guinea pigs on all things that attack our financial services industry. So a seat in Parliament really and truly is not what I would expect from the Friends of Cayman, or for them to lobby on that behalf, because what's going to happen then is the British taxpayer, and I don't blame them, will say, well, if we now have representatives in our Parliament from tax havens like the Cayman Islands and so on and so forth, then surely there must be some form of reciprocity whereby we can show up en masse and basically try our luck at participating in the economic miracle of the Cayman Islands. The fact that Caymanians are a minority already and wield very little economic power in the Cayman Islands should definitely give us all a moment of pause. But again, when you look at the sort of announcements that come out from the MP, and then you look at that Elections Observer report, this is no longer conspiracy theory. This is them giving you a roadmap as to exactly what the future of Cayman holds. So,
and stick a pin in your hand. This is why it is so important to have this conversation.
Yes.
I know it kind of like dry-ish, but it is very, very important. Sorry about that, my love.
No. This is the future. It's going to boil down to this. Join us or go your own way. And if I am going to live on my knees, I'd rather be the master of my own future than to live on my knees and to be taken over by a foreign element that really has no respect for us, doesn't appreciate any of the cultural nuances of Caymanians and the Cayman Islands, and basically are just here to continue to be the parasites sucking off of a system that they deem to be theirs. Because what isn't being said at any level, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful to any type of person or any class of foreign national, but far too many come here and have absolutely no respect for Caymanians, no respect for Caymanian brain power, ingenuity, hard work, or our history. And if we now open the floodgates and accept these sort of Trojan horse gifts, dog eat our supper. So perhaps the three of you can continue this conversation. I will always participate, because they are setting us up in the long game, and hopefully we're not foolish enough to fall for these tricks.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much for that. And we will certainly continue the conversation here as well with it. Right now, we're going to go to headline news, and For the Record, we'll be back immediately after. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. We have three callers. I think people are hell bent on making sure that we don't finish these recommendations today, but we're going to engage in a conversation with them. Let's go to the callers. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
O.C., Dr. Steve,
Good
and
morning, Mr. Devil.
good friend Teresa. I calling to confirm what you all were talking about, Dr. Frank.
Frank, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's still got plenty of life in him,
Yes.
and we should use him. If we had listened to him used him years ago, we would not have had a social problem we got now. So people like him should be still employed. And he know more about our culture than those they bring in here. So he can help us. Yep. Another one comes to mind is Mr. Gilbert McLean. I think they should find somewhere in the health service authority for him. Because he know a lot about that. He still got some life in him too. But many more, I guess I could name, but time running. But for peace sake, find something for Dr. Steve to do. At one time, he had him
Dr.
down.
Frank.
So, Dr. Frank. Mm-hmm. Dr. Steve, you got a good job now. Unpaid. Although you're not getting paid for it. We got to find something for you to do till you get paid. Okay. At one time, they had Dr. Frank Solo who counting cans. Mm-hmm. And he still lost his job there for writing a letter, I believe. So we got to treat our Caymanians better than that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Devil, for that. Thank you. Very good point. Next caller, good morning. Welcome.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello?
Yeah,
morning.
we're getting an echo. Something with your phone.
You hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yes. This is Mark Samir from the BRAP.
Yes, sir.
How are you guys?
Fine, and yourself?
Great.
Pretty good. Remember the thing I was talking to you about with the property that I have up here that the government been utilizing for quite a number of years?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so far, just to keep you updated, I spoke to a top-ranking official a few days ago, and yesterday the surveyors came around.
That's good.
Yes, and from Mr. Markfield. Mr. Markfield, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm fine.
Yes, I want to ask you a question on the Bill of Rights, Freedoms and Responsibilities, number 15, property.
Mm-hmm.
On page 21. No, sorry. Page 21, yes.
You want to read it for us, caller?
We don't know with the property.
Yes.
I see where these wordings, nothing in any law or done under its authority shall be held to contravene subsection 1. And it also says it in section 3, the same wording. I would like you to explain what really, why was that added twice on two different sections? I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Okay. Thank you very much, caller, for that. Dr. Steve will give you an opportunity to research that while we take the other caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Oh, we lost that caller at that point in time. You want to address it now?
Yeah, the Bill of Rights, Section 15 of the Bill of Rights, it deals with property, and it says that the government shall not interfere in the peaceful enjoyment of any person's property, and shall not compulsory take possession of any person's property or compulsory acquire an interest in or right over any person's property of any description except in accordance with the law, and therefore. And it says the interference, taking of possession or acquisition is necessary or expedient in the interests of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, public health, town and country planning, or the development utilization of any property in such manner as to promote the public benefit or the economic well-being of the community. And it goes on to say the reasons why government can take property. Government can exercise the right of eminent domain. But when they exercise the right of eminent domain, they have to pay the value of the property. But there are some exceptions, and it says nothing in any law can prevent the government from doing this, because if it's within those exceptions,
those parameters,
to the bill up to the
okay,
to,
and
to
then
rights.
Section 21.
Yes, and section 21. Section 21 says the public emergencies is a period of public emergency may be declared by the governor by proclamation published in this manner provided in subsection 2 when the well-being of or security of the Cayman Islands is threatened by war, invasion, general insurrection, public disorder, natural disaster, or other public emergency, and the declaration is considered necessary by the governor to maintain or restore peace and order.
Okay.
So that's what it means. And we saw the first time that happened here, it just during Hurricane Ivan, when the governor declared a public emergency in order to keep the peace and order in the country, when there was a lot of looting and disorder during after the Hurricane Ivan.
Okay, we have one more caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Moderator.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to all the distinguished members of your panel.
Good morning, sir.
This is Richard Bernard.
Good morning, Mr. Bernard.
Yes, good morning. The subject matter this morning is very near and dear to my heart. I just want to go back and say that in 1980, I was one of the cast members of Frank McField's play Time Longer Than Rope that we took to Barbados. The director at that time was Jeff Cresswell. And I could go back and name every cast member for that play. And so now, many years after, for Frank McField to be treated in such a, I would say, an inhumane fashion is deplorable. But, we do this to our own people many, many times over. And this is the kind of behavior that needs to be discontinued, because we as a people cannot go forward if we are not unified. I also want to say something further about the wages. I remember in 1988, I was the night manager and night auditor for the Grand Pavilion Hotel. That was the same year that part of Royal Palms burnt down. At that time, I was making $12.50 an hour, and I could actually live off of my gratuities check alone. So to come back now many years after for a minimum wage to be set at $6 is really deplorable. I mean, rent has increased in this country, food has increased, the electricity consumption rate has increased, water rate has increased, the cost of living has increased, but the salaries has decreased. That is not good economics. And our leaders are really not doing a good job in running this country. With that, I close and say, gentlemen and lady, have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller, and the same to you as well. You want to take the break? One more caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. O.C.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And yourself?
How is Miss Annie?
She's fine, thanks.
Glad to hear that. I'm just butting in. I'm not troubling your business. I come here to drink a little milk, and I'm drinking it and not counting no cow. I hear people come here talking about they want to know their right. I don't have no right here. Well, I'm just praising you, right? Mr. McField, good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, ma'am.
Not going to beat you too. Miss P.
Hi there.
How you doing, girl?
Me say, me no come here for drink milk. Me
come
no come
here
here
to
for count cow. Yes.
Me come here to drink a milk.
Yes.
You know
I'm
who
good.
this
Thanks
do?
very much. I think I recognize the voice.
You better. How is Mr. John?
Lots. He's good. Thanks.
and the kids.
They're great.
Big
Thanks.
on up, man. Big on up and do no good work and keep it up.
Thanks.
Talk to the country, right?
Yep.
I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Bye.
She knows everybody.
Yes. Oh, dear.
Let's take that break now, and then when we return, let's see if we can get very quickly through these last recommendations. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Art Connor. My co-hosts, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Dr. Steve McField. One of our listeners said that wanted to know whether or not today's show will be aired on TV. They're enjoying it very much, but they needed to had to leave their radio now. So they wanted to know whether or not it will be aired. And today's show will be aired 8 o'clock tonight, and it will run through Friday. And then, of course, Friday's show will be aired at 8 o'clock on Friday night and run through the weekend. And then we'll pick up Monday's show. Monday's show will air at 8 o'clock and run again. So, yes, you will be able to watch it tonight at 8 o'clock on government TV, and then you can also access it on YouTube as well. I have given my co-hosts and myself the homework for the weekend, even though the weekend hasn't reached yet, but maybe we'll have some of it prepared on Friday. We want to continue this whole conversation about proposals for the overseas territories being represented in the UK Parliament. We know that there has always been one strong proponent of that, and that gentleman, Mr. Andrew Rosendale, is the person. We are going to do some research on what he has said. This is not the first time that he has said so. We want to look and see what he has said in the past, whether he has put forward any cogent argument in terms of why we should seek representation in the UK Parliament, and even more so now that we're in the Brexit discussions as well. I know one of our members of our Legislative Assembly here who knows Mr. Rosendale quite well. That's MLA Mr. Ard McLean. I'm not sure if he's listening today, but he may, if he has the opportunity to contact Mr. Rosendale, tell him that we're certainly interested in talking about his proposal and wanting to know more about it. So if he has any documentation that he would wish to share, that is, Mr. Rosendale would wish to share with us in terms of supporting his proposal,
that you
we
should
would
have.
certainly love to have that and to discuss it. And maybe, depending on the time difference here in the Cayman Islands, we'd get him on the phone and talk to him as well directly on For the Record to see what he has to say as well. I believe the UK should be able to pay for that phone call. Would that be to a toll-free number, Miss Susan, or not? We'll have to get the UK to pay for that phone call, but I'm sure they can do that. Let's very quickly now see if we can go to these recommendations.
But yeah, Uzi, I was saying that it costs money to run.
Yeah,
so if you're going
what
to give
we've done is
women
we've closed off
incentives-
the phone calls now for so that we can get through this. And then on Friday, if we don't have any guests, then we can then continue to talk about independence, being a part of the UK Parliament, the UK's hidden agendas, and all of those things. As,
Shame
well.
on you about hidden agenda.
Yeah, they would never have such a thing.
Ooh.
Okay,
But no, yes, but the only thing I was going to say, at the end of the day, when you run for politics, it's a lot of money. So we don't even have, the party system here is still evolving. I know in Canada, Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, the NDP used to have a certain percentage that they actually allocate to women, and it would women and minorities, because it usually helped with taking care of your family and giving you an opportunity to run. I don't think it was a large amount of money, but certainly we need to consider what the incentives may or may not be. But at the end of the day, it costs money to run. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let's look at the final recommendations here. Media regulation is recommended that consideration should be given to the introduction of media rules during the campaign period to promote equitable access to the media for all contesting candidates and the provision of free airtime by the public broadcaster. We hear that some candidates complain about the fact that they actually jacked up the price for campaign commercials or infomercials or whatever they were going on the air, that the media, the news media, TV, and as well as radio, jacked up the prices and stuff like that. How would we be able to achieve this?
It says here something about provision of a free airtime by the public broadcaster. I think, Ori, that there should be a set of rules. Like I agree with that recommendation. There should be a set of rules of how the media should function during the campaign season. And I still believe that public radio has a lot to do with it. And this radio station, the Radio Cayman, has two stations, I think, 89.9 and 105.3, and there should be some free time, equal time for everybody to get their message across, because it's very important that we are a young country, that we should utilize the public broadcaster to get our message around, and it shouldn't be only about how much money that you can make at that particular season.
Mm-hmm. I should point out that here on Radio Cayman, for the last 3 elections, I'm told that Radio Cayman did offer 15 minutes of free time to each candidate on Talk Today. And then there was also 5 minutes of free infomercial that were offered by Radio Cayman as well. So the public broadcasters, Radio Cayman, certainly we did our part here. Persons with disabilities, recommendation 20, legal provisions of the Constitution and the elections law regarding persons with disabilities. Voting rights need to be revised to bring them in line with international commitments and European Court of Human Rights judgments in relation to persons with disabilities. Now, I also saw they made some remarks in relation to, it seemed as if they took offense to the fact that certain persons who were deemed to be of unsound mind were prevented from either registering or voting in the Cayman Islands, and they took issue with that as well. Any comments on those?
I don't know. I don't have that information. This is the first time I'm hearing that.
Me too.
That a person who had mental challenges were not permitted to vote. I didn't hear that.
There's
before.
something in the law in relation to. I'll try to find it. If you're judged by a competent court or something like that to be of unsound mind. It's in the Constitution.
Yeah, it is. But
yes.
when did we ever have problem with that?
Yeah,
I mean, I've ran a couple. I've not encountered this before.
Me neither. I haven't encountered that before. That we deny those people the right to vote.
You wouldn't want them necessarily to vote because they don't have the capacity to vote.
Exactly. Yes.
But I've never had it. I've never seen a situation where somebody didn't have the capacity to vote is brought in and.
Never seen it. But I guess the mere fact that it is in our legislation, they basically were challenging that. And then recommendation 21, following best international practice, it would be advisable if a voter could request the assistance of his or her confidant and vote within the confines of the polling booth without any other person present. Well, again, they don't know the history of politics in the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
I would put a quote, around that word friend. That may be a friend, not a friend even for a day, but a friend for that occasion.
A moment.
Because, yes, for that moment, simply because that friend is taking them in there to ensure that they vote for the candidate of not the voter's choice, but the friend's choice. So again, they don't know the history of politics here in the Cayman Islands. There is nothing, to me, that ensures that that person's vote is cast the way that they want it to be cast by having the presiding officer conduct it. And there are those who question whether or not the presiding officer should go in the voting booth. No, I think it should be done in the open, but where the agents of candidates cannot see or hear for whom that person wishes to vote. So the friend, like I have said in the past, and I will continue to reiterate, the purpose of having the friend there is to ensure that the presiding officer is carrying out the specific wishes and instructions of the voter. That cannot be guaranteed if you allow the friend to go into the voting booth with the individual and cast the vote for the voter. That cannot be guaranteed. Not in our political culture here in the Cayman Islands. Okay? So we have our homework for the next few days. Mr. Rosendale, we're going to put you under the microscope and all of your words and whatever writings that you may have as well. And I want to give both of you an opportunity for closing comments now.
Yeah, and also that actually warns our audience so they can come prepared to have a conversation with us about it as well, because we don't have a monopoly on the views. And I'm going to say this in response, not necessarily in response, in conjunction to some of the comments made by Dr. Frank, those of us here, and the audience. My worry is if we don't demand honesty, performance, responsibility, and a real dedication and commitment to honor the views of the people and the issues on which our politicians ran on, we will just become resigned to their manipulation. Because in a sense, our politicians have a certain contempt for us as the voters and for democracy, because they run on certain issues, and the minute they're in, bam, you don't hear from them again until 6 weeks before the elections. But we have a responsibility also. Come on, we have to do our part. We have to hold them accountable. And this is going to be one of my continuing themes as long as you guys will have me here to remind us that we are actually in control. Always look to the north. Look at who actually voted Trump in. Those who were disenfranchised. Yeah.
Just want to say, based on one of the comments that you made about the politicians there, my understanding is, and this is just on the Mara Road, that one of the new councillors has now changed their phone number.
Get out of town.
That's what I heard.
I tell you.
I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I heard it. One of the new councillors changed their phone number, cell number, as well. Dr. Macfield.
I would just like to remind those who don't know and to enlighten those people who don't know that the modern theater in Cayman was started by Dr. Frank, us, myself, Just Cresswell, Bendel Heights, and all of us when we came back.
Anita Ebanks
from England, and it started at the Inn Theater it started as the Inn Theater, and it started at the Old Royal Palms Hotel, and it grew now into what it is today. I just would like to remind the people that we were the ones, we were the pioneers of it, and Dr. Frank has written some great plays. To me, and this is just my observation, and for me, my preference, the best play that he's ever written is Time Longer Than Rope. And I remember the performance of that play was so real that I almost was lost in the play, in some of the scenes in the play. It was so realistic of the culture of Cayman, and today it's more relevant today than it even was then. And And I have suggested to Dr. Frank that what we have to do is go back to the roots. We have to go back to the foundation. His plays are masterpieces, and other people, the people who now control the cultural foundations say that also. So I am not saying something that is not true. What Dr. Frank has to do now, and he has to do, if they do not recognize him and do not want to assist him and bring him into the forefront and into the circle, take his plays, start to organize them, start to produce them, and take them into the community himself, and take them to the people himself, because they're only going to brush them off when they need to go abroad internationally, and to show that something Caymanians have done. And I would suggest that that's what he should do, because if he doesn't do that, they're going to push him down into obscurity. And Dr. Frank has a lot of life left in him. He's very talented playwright, and he needs to be treated better than he's been treated. And I'm so happy that we had so much response from the comments that we made today on the radio.
Okay, and I have one more that I'm going to read before I make my final comments. It says, no one should be surprised how Dr. Frank is treated. It is a shame for him to be ignored when the play is his. It seems those who should support him will never do so because they want all the glory for themselves. Take Reba, for example. She's now considered one of the best in her costume work. Look at what they bring in for the Badabinu Carnival. Costumes. Now she's up to compete in Italy soon. Let's see how much help she will receive in this venture, in this venue for competition, when all helps to promote the islands. When they all help to promote the islands, let's see what support that Reba will get when she goes to this competition in Italy as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. Should I add to that, we are our Caymanian brothers and our Caymanian sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling, Dwayne Banks, Mr. Gilbert McLean at 12 noon, who's filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. Have a great day, and as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.